Mechanic built disabled child a ride to school. The next day, her father gave him a job that changed his life. It was 6:45 a.m. on a chilly Monday morning when Jake Morgan opened the creaky garage door of his tiny auto shop, tucked between an old laundromat and a shuttered diner in a forgotten corner of town. The world didn't seem to notice Jake much these days, not since the pandemic had drained his savings and left his dreams of expanding the shop buried beneath unpaid bills. Still, he showed up every morning, greasy hands and hopeful heart, because fixing things, cars, bikes, engines, was all he'd ever known. That morning, as Jake wiped the fog from his window, he noticed a girl struggling across the sidewalk. She looked no older than 10, bundled up in a pink coat 2 sizes too big, her crutches clinking against the frosty pavement. Her backpack slipped constantly, and with each limp, her face winced in silent pain. A worn-out man, probably her father, walked beside her, holding her steady with one hand while carrying what looked like her wheelchair in the other. Jake stepped outside, unable to look away. Something about the girl's determination tugged at his chest. "She okay?" Jake called out gently. The man nodded politely, clearly exhausted. "Yeah. Just trying to get her to school. Bus stops a mile up. Her chair's too heavy for the snow." Jake's eyes fell to the girl's sneakers, soaked and mismatched. Her cheeks were red, but she didn't complain, not once. She simply kept going. They disappeared around the corner, but their image stayed with him all day. That night, Jake didn't sleep. He spent hours sketching an idea, something simple but sturdy. He dug through the scrap pile behind his shop, cutting metal, repurposing an old battery, and welding pieces of bikes and lawnmowers together until sparks lit the dark. By sunrise, a small custom-built electric cart stood before him. Bright yellow, with a plastic canopy and a cushioned seat for warmth. The next morning, Jake waited at the same spot. When the girl and her father arrived, she stopped and stared. "For her," Jake said, motioning to the cart. "Built it last night. She deserves better than frozen feet." The man blinked, confused. "You made this?" Jake nodded. The girl smiled, wide, toothy, unfiltered joy. She climbed in with a giggle, testing the controls like a seasoned driver. Jake had even added a little horn that beeped twice, making her laugh harder. "I don't know what to say," the father murmured, his voice cracking. "This is unbelievable." Jake just shrugged. "She deserves to get to school with dignity." The man introduced himself as Daniel Hayes. Quiet, reserved, but kind. He offered to pay, but Jake refused. "I didn't do it for money," Jake said simply. "I did it because I could." Daniel paused, then handed Jake a business card with trembling fingers. Jake glanced at it and blinked. "Hayes Industrial Solutions, President and CEO. Come by tomorrow," Daniel said, eyes misty. "I think I have a job for someone like you." Jake thought it was a joke, until he showed up at the sleek office building the next day and was led into a conference room larger than his entire garage. Daniel stood waiting, surrounded by blueprints and engineering prototypes. "We design assistive devices," he explained. "Wheelchairs, prosthetics, mobility aids. But lately, we've lost touch with real-world innovation. What you built for my daughter. That's the kind of thinking we need." Jake was speechless. "You've got heart," Daniel added. "And skills no degree can teach. I want you on my team, head of creative development." Jake's world tilted. That night, Jake sat in his garage for the last time, staring at the tools that had once been his entire life. His hands, rough and calloused, had always built machines. Now, they'd be building futures. Within months, Jake's designs revolutionized the way Hayes Industrial approached accessibility. The Sunny Ride, named after Daniel's daughter, Summer, became their flagship product. Jake led community programs that taught young mechanics how to innovate with empathy. He went from overlooked grease monkey to keynote speaker at national conferences. But more than the title, more than the paycheck, it was Summer's smile every time she waved from her yellow ride that kept Jake grounded. He had given her a lift to school, but she had given him a lift for life. Sometimes, it's the smallest acts, one night's labor, one moment of compassion, that changed the course of everything. And for Jake Morgan, all it took was a little kindness, and a little girl, to remind him that fixing broken things was never just about machines, it was about people. Because when you give from the heart, the world finds a way to give back in ways you never imagined.